we've had an estimated retention of over 60 jobs within the last few years. And then we've seen an estimated $9.8 million investment impact, including sales increases, retained sales, and cost savings. These numbers might seem small on a national scale, but for our manufacturers, it's a huge impact.
That's the voice of Iza Petrikowska, Executive Director at the Arvada Economic Development Association in Arvada, Colorado. She's here today to walk us through the Arvada Manufacturing Initiative. It's the only program like this in Colorado and is helping retain jobs, grow sales, and foster a flourishing local manufacturing sector. I'm Amanda Ellis, and you're listening to Inside America's Best Cities, a podcast for chamber, economic development, and talent attraction professionals. Learn more about this podcast at livabilitymedia.com. And with that, let's jump in. Welcome, Iza, to Inside America's Best Cities. Super excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
So you're in Arvada, Colorado, which I gather is not too far from Denver. Can you kick us off by just telling us a little bit about you, your EDO, and your area?
Sure, yeah. So a little background on Arvada. We are just under 10 miles west of Denver. We are in Jefferson County, as well as we have 2 square miles in Adams County. So we share some county borders. We are right now at about 125,000 in population. So we're the 7th largest city in Colorado. We do have an economic development group within the city, and we're full-time city staff. We're fully funded by the city, but we are quasi-governmental in that we have a 501c6 nonprofit set up, and that's really our board of directors who oversee a lot of our grant programming, and we'll talk about one of these grants today. And all of those board of directors are members of the business community in Arvada, make up different target industries that we're trying to keep a breadth of and awareness of, challenges and opportunities. So we're a small but mighty team. There's 3 of us, and then we share a marketing and communications manager that helps support AIDA, as well as help support the rest of community and economic development for the city.
Well, I imagine there's never a dull moment with just 3 of you.
Yeah, and I'll say we're probably at around 3,000 businesses now.
Oh, awesome. And as you mentioned, today we're here specifically to chat about the Arvada Manufacturing Initiative and some unique ways that you all are supporting some of your manufacturers. Talk us through some overview of that, and then we'll delve in more deeply.
Yeah, so we've been collaborating with a longstanding partner, which is called Manufacturers Edge, to bring this program to Arvada companies and to Arvada manufacturers. And Manufacturers Edge, or ME, is a statewide manufacturing assistance center. So they're dedicated to increasing the competitiveness of Colorado manufacturers and Arvada manufacturers. Currently, we're the only kind of programming like this in the state, but we are working with other neighboring municipalities and looking at scaling that up. And I did mention it's the Manufacturing Extension Program. So that's funded through the U.S. Department of Commerce.
What exactly are they doing in terms of support? I know the website mentioned like a menu of options and different things that it looks like maybe they can choose from and what they need support on, but what does some of that look like?
So it's an initiative that has been going on now for 10 years with our partnership. So it's looks at supporting local manufacturing industry and providing financial support to access programs that will help companies ultimately optimize, scale, and grow their manufacturing operations, of course, here in Arvada. And through this, we have a collaboration of different Arvada manufacturers that have already gone through the program. It was kind of focused on small manufacturers, but we help all sizes to obtain, anything from on-site support, strategic planning, training, and technical assistance. We are we're providing reimbursement for this grant. It's a match grant with ME being a partner. There's certain state and federal grant funds that could potentially be combined with this, but AIDA specifically contributes up to $5,000 in a 2-year period towards whether it's process improvement or, back of house kind of assessments and helping them fund that match grant. And so it's assisted through state and federal funds that help match that. And there's a small buy-in of like under $1,000 for company leadership of those manufacturers, just so we do have that commitment and buy-in from the leadership from them as well.
So the companies do get to identify themselves what area they want support on.
Yep. And a lot of that is just through efforts that we've had. We have a retention program and kind of strategy behind our retention efforts and try to build those relationships with our manufacturers. So understanding what the pain points are and if they're a good match for that, we kind of connect them then with our MEP to provide some of those solutions for them.
Gotcha. So do they work with the program for a defined period of time, or is it just ongoing until they decide they've accomplished what they set out to?
They do. So again, and the manufacturing program, they have a breadth of experienced engineers and business professionals that are subject matter experts within manufacturing, have either come from the field or have that expertise. They have experience in management and process technology, and they work closely with those companies to assess and provide kind of those customized solutions. So we do have in our agreement, we have set up that, we do an initial kind of consultation with them. We can do an overall business health assessment for them through our partnership. And then we try to do like a 6-month check in and follow up to see what some of those success rates are and the impact on their business has been. And hopefully that's positive. That's our final goal. I do have some data on kind of overall implementation of the projects that we've had done. And we've had an estimated retention of over 60 jobs within the last few years that were retained and or created as part of this improvement and this grant investment. And then we've seen an estimated $9.8 million investment impact, including sales increases, retained sales, and cost savings. And keep in mind, these are small manufacturers. So again, like these numbers might seem small on a national scale, but for our manufacturers, it's a huge impact.
Yeah. How do you go about identifying who would be a good fit for this? Are there certain criteria that you're looking for?
So I mentioned this kind of started as a small manufacturing grant. $5,000 isn't a ton from what we contribute into it, but it's significant for our small manufacturers, especially if we're looking at startup manufacturers, mom and pop shops. We have a lot of small kind of food and beverage manufacturers that have really scaled up since this. So again, geared towards small manufacturing in the past, but we really open it up to all manufacturers if there's a specific need that fits, and we can kind of customize that as it comes. Of course, because it's a Arvada-based grant, we limit kind of the business to be located within Arvada city limits. We also make sure that they're at least in good standing. They have a business license with the city. There's no delinquencies or anything like that on code or any violations in that instance where we would be nervous that they wouldn't stay or sustain kind of within Arvada or they have any outstanding concerns with the city. And currently they have to have a manufacturing NAICS code, but that might change as well. So we've been looking at scaling this just beyond manufacturing. I know we all have opportunities to, improve our back of house or strategic kind of vision and planning. And beyond just our manufacturers, we have had some interest in kind of the professional services industry as well as engineering. And then we really want that buy-in and support of the owners and executives without our leadership belief that this is something that they need and something that will be valuable for them. We want to make sure that that's communicated from the top down within the organization.
That makes sense. I love seeing the support, though, of, yeah, those smaller groups that are still contributing a lot to your community. And a lot of times the big ones and the big incentives and all that are what you hear more about. But this is also so important from a retention standpoint, especially, and just, yeah, making sure that those manufacturers, some of which have probably been around longer than others, that they make it.
Yeah, and again, anything from like small manufacturing, we have some kind of gluten-free, really small startup manufacturers that are small family-owned businesses with 2 or 3 employees that are looking to scale up to, multi-billion dollar medical device manufacturing that are international providers of medical devices throughout the world. And so it's a real breadth of different types of manufacturers that we deal with, but it's so exciting and inspiring to be part of this work and see them kind of succeed here in Arvada.
Yeah, that's great to be able to have something too that can apply to such a breadth. How do you see this evolving going forward in the coming years? And then I'm not sure we cover what year did this kind of start?
So this was 10 years ago. So it's been out for a while. We have leveraged it now, I think, as we're expanding and we're gaining more traction and interest from counties and from the state even on scaling this. We've been sort of quiet about this program. And, I've been in my role now as an executive director for a year. So trying to scale this up a little bit more. Our board has just made an investment of 50,000 additional dollars towards the grant and looking at scaling that potentially next year as well. So trying to grow it and get the word out there and make sure our manufacturers are aware. And as we're seeing a lot of kind of expansion around, industry and manufacturing in particular, we're really trying to help support some initiatives behind that.
What advice would you have for other communities maybe looking to establish something similar or just provide more support to that manufacturing sector?
I see they've been coming out with tons of statistics around US manufacturing and industry and jobs. And I just read a research article that was looking at a study that said there might be as much as 3.8 million jobs between now and 2033. So more than 5 in 10 or 1.9 million of these jobs could go unfilled if workforce challenges and these jobs kind of continue to have vacancies. And so I would say kind of connect with your local manufacturing extension programs through the state if you're able to. A lot of these efforts came as a result of our retention visits with our manufacturers. So, understanding what those pain points are, working with different partners on connecting the dots and seeing, what funding and opportunities there are out there, whether it's local, state, or federal. That would be my biggest, kind of resource sharing with your partners.
That makes sense. So we always wrap with a fun question, but before I get to the fun question, anything else you'd like to add to our topic at hand?
Just thank you for this time and for allowing us to talk about this manufacturing program. Again, we're really passionate about, exploring how we can help support our industrial industries. I know that's something that's maybe not seen as sexy in for many workforce, but it is something that is just has evolved so much. And I'll say too, we're working in connection with some of our workforce partners. We have a number of county partnerships and chamber and a lot of higher ed partners that we're looking at how kind of do we amplify some of these positions. And they're really well paying positions as well. In Arvada alone, we have an average wage of $88,000 manufacturing positions, and that's the average wage. And so I'll say, that maybe hasn't been catching up with the cost of living here that's been growing exponentially or increasing.
Still a good
But
number, though.
it is, yeah. And I think there's just kind of a misconception of, these jobs aren't kind of stereotypical what you think of like being covered in dirt and oil and all of that. Like there's some really amazing advanced manufacturing careers that are just incredible and offer so many great resources and workforce opportunities for our local residents. So
It's so true. We've been talking about that with several interviews lately, just that sort of PR thing with some of those positions, right? That they're not what a lot of people are envisioning. Actually, so many of them are so high tech now, and that's really more the skill set.
exactly.
It's a really fascinating evolution. One thing I was going to ask you a little broader than this topic, since you're in Colorado, I know that's a state that has seen a lot of population growth, especially during and after the pandemic. But even before that, I feel like Denver and the state in general had really become more popular. I'm not sure how long you've been based there, but what kind of impacts have you seen from that or observations? Is that an accurate way of putting when some of that growth has happened?
Definitely, yeah. And I'll speak to my state demographer, would be very happy because she's been trying to message this out. But there's a perception that like Colorado is growing exponentially still. And I think that is, well, we know from data that that's slowing down a lot. It's just that our housing and our workforce hasn't quite caught up with the previous exponential growth that has happened 10 years ago. So we are seeing folks leave, the state kind of as a result of affordability and cost of living and access to primarily affordable housing. But that's a whole nother separate topic. And we're dealing with that on a regional and state level as, access to housing, especially for our workforce, is quite a challenge. But I would say overall, it's been very stable. Arvada and kind of our region is really well known for aerospace manufacturing. So we have a lot around aerospace and advanced manufacturing, particularly in our county. That's kind of competing now with some engineering as well. And in Arvada, particularly to biomedical manufacturing. But yeah, I would say Colorado is a great place to live and excited to have IEDC here this year. The weather's amazing. There's so much access to the outdoors, there's access to great paying jobs and everything else that economic developers are working on to fill in, some of the livability and wants of our residents as well has been really incredible. And I've worked in economic development now for 10 years. I got my master's in urban and regional planning at CU Denver. Prior to that, I was in DC for 9 years working in defense contracting for Lockheed Martin and did some policy research and other jobs kind of starting out in DC. But I will say that Colorado is such a collaborative state when it comes to working in the economic development realm. And I've learned so much from our economic development partners and all of our other resources here. So it's been truly inspiring and connecting with other professionals on how to do some of this workforce challenges and marketing and attraction for the state and for our Denver metro region has been really, really incredible.
Seems like collaboration is really everything in this field. That's definitely a common thread.
Exactly.
So I mentioned our fun question, and the fun question you did not see ahead of time, but it's easy. Usually it's easy. So if someone were visiting Arvada for the first time, what is a bucket list item they should make sure to do? So it could be something really great to eat, something fun to do. What do you think?
So fun fact, I had a weekend to, look for apartments to live in when we were searching from DC. And we ended up in Arvada to meet in Old Town. So it's a historic downtown within our city limits. And I think that is hard to come by anymore, especially out west, as, kind of downtowns are being newly developed. We have this beautiful historic old town and we have reused a lot of the historic buildings that are there from the 1800s. So we have an old school that was repurposed for a whiskey and restaurant concept. Our business improvement district has been doing a great job at kind of bringing in those local restaurants and retailers and try to keep it kind of local and personalized. So I say, if you do come to Arvada, come to our old town and check it out. And it's beautiful. As a result of COVID, we had street closures. So we've closed off streets to be pedestrian only. And we've implemented some different art on roads, as well as we're now going through a mural program. So we're doing a bunch of murals downtown, covering a bunch of our utility boxes with different murals from local artists too. So there's a lot of cool public art projects and initiatives going on. And yeah, it's just a quaint little downtown area. And I always say for our population size, Arvada is a big city, but feels like a small town.
Yes, that's always a good vibe. And then you have that proximity to Denver for any other big city needs, right?
Exactly.
Good stuff. Well, thank you so much, Isa. Really enjoyed the conversation and thanks for spending some time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the Livability Podcast, where we take you inside America's best cities. At Livability, we highlight the unsung awesomeness of small and mid-sized cities across the country. We also partner with communities to reach their target companies and potential residents through digital content and print magazine programs. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow, rate, and review this show wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also learn more about us at livabilitymedia.com. Have an idea for an upcoming episode? Email me at aellis@livability.com. Until next time, from Livability, I'm Amanda Ellis, sharing the stories of America's most promising places.